Well, there you are. Okay. Very good afternoon, everyone. And I want to thank you for joining us here today for our small business webinar. My name is Ben Allen. I'm state senator representing the Hollywood, Coastal South Bay, and West Side communities of Los Angeles County. And we wanted to do this webinar today because we know how hard the last couple of years have been for so many people, especially our businesses, our small businesses. We take a lot of phone calls from constituents, including small business owners from throughout our district. And we've heard from many of you about how hard it has been, especially at the beginning. We were taking enormous number of calls of folks who were trying to figure out how to navigate the early stages of the pandemic. And it was particularly distressing at the time when no end seemed to be in sight. But as a response to the pandemic, there were all sorts of resources and programs that were set up by both local, state, and federal agencies to help businesses get through the pandemic. But I know that as things are getting better, I actually have seen how difficult sometimes it is for folks to understand and keep straight exactly what's available, what agencies will be funding further economic aid for small businesses, many of whom continue to struggle after all of these years of pandemic. So I'm hopeful that today will provide some clarity as to the future of these business assistance programs, also provide you with information about what exactly is available to our small business community going forward. In 2021, last year, the legislature passed nearly $10 billion in a big COVID economic relief package for businesses. This year, the legislature does continue to support business through the new budget. We've doubled down on our historic investments from last year to put money toward all sorts of things: housing, homelessness services, mitigating the impacts of drought, wildfires. We've also had the largest funding increase in decades for schools. But in the area specifically of small business, we've been setting aside tens of millions of dollars for hard-hit industries grant program, as well as more money for innovators and entrepreneurs. We've been ensuring that more than $1 billion will be dedicated to offsetting the cost of paid sick leave. Also, the taxes that folks have been paying on unemployment insurance. So there's this extra money that's relief money, basically, to help cover the costs of those two things. Further, in response to the recent spike in retail theft that we've seen up and down the state, we've specified funding for law enforcement to specifically combat the smash and grabs and other property crimes, so that they can really combat those criminals and try to address and reduce the number of smash and grabs that we're seeing around the state. We've also extended the California Competes tax credit and grant program through fiscal year 27-28. So it's going to be around for quite some time, and then hopefully extended beyond that. Just to give you a sense, in April, the program provided funding to 8 organizations that committed to creating 7,600 jobs in California, along with over $3 billion in capital investments that could have otherwise been lost to other states. The extension of this program now means more support for emerging entrepreneurship and business retention throughout our region. So this is a way for us to be competitive with other states, as they've been offering tax credits and other incentives. So these are some of the things that have been happening up in the legislature, but we've got 2 really fantastic experts that are going to be answering your questions and giving presentations just to help to demystify some of the options that are out there for small businesses as they are coping with this new stage of our economic recovery. So we've got Nadia Segura, who's the director of Bet Tzedek's Small Business Development Program. And we also have Ted Hyatt, who's the associate regional director for the LA Small Business Development Center. And if you've got any questions during the webinar, please, you can post them. I think we've got our Q&A section that's up, or maybe it's the chat. But that's an option for people to post questions. We've also received a number of questions in advance that we will get answered as well. So as time allows, we're going to try to have our panelists answer as many questions as they possibly can at the end of the program. Anyway, really appreciate everyone for jumping on, and a big thank you to Ted and Nadia for your willingness to step up and present. So why don't we let you take it away, Nadia?
Thank you. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. and it should work now. So thank you, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. As the senator mentioned, my name is Nadia. I'm the directing attorney of the Small Business Program at Bet Tzedek. Bet Tzedek is a nonprofit that has been serving Los Angeles County for over 40 years. We provide free legal services to individuals and small business owners in a wide range of areas. And today I'm going to focus in a specific in the work that we do for small business owners and entrepreneurs in LA. First of all, why to support the small businesses? For Bet Tzedek has been very important to keep up to date on the needs of our communities. California is home for over 4.1 million small businesses, and after decades of advocating for economic justice, we launched our small business program in 2016 to strengthen the economic base of underserved communities. We are also seeing that recently, especially after COVID, a lot of businesses owned by women and people of color are being faced with historic barriers, and we want to be able to support those communities. So the small business program has 4 different ways in which we support the community. We have community presentations and workshops, and we have our small business legal academies. Both of them are free events that are available for the community. On the community presentations, we discuss topics that we think are relevant for small business owners. We have been having webinars and presentations around, for example, commercial lease. We saw some of the questions related to that, like debt that a lot of small business owners currently have with their landlords. So we touch on different topics that are relevant for the community. And we also have our small business legal academies, which are a combination of presentation of attorneys and then the opportunity to meet one-to-one with lawyers. We have 2 small business legal academies coming up in October. So I invite you to register. You will be able to join and see a presentation of a lawyer. But then if you register, we will be able to pair you with an attorney and have a one-to-one consultation with them. And all of those services are free, and you can register on our website. So I invite you to visit our site. I will put also the link and everything on the chat. We also have some guides and other free resources for small business owners available on our website. We have FAQs, guides that we think are relevant for small business owners, and just to get information about what is happening and just some of the legal resources that all small business owners should have in hand. And then besides that, we have our direct client representation. Our program is designed to focus on low to moderate income entrepreneurs and small business owners, and our program is strictly transactional. What that means is that we cannot help in litigation proceedings. However, if you are facing litigation or you're interested in getting more information about that, we can provide referrals to organizations that do help in litigation. Our services are strictly transactional. What that means is that we can help you in a lot of the things that small business owners need on their day-to-day. So that can go from helping you to review a contract. If you have a commercial lease that you're about to sign, we can help you reviewing that commercial lease. As I mentioned, we know that a lot of small business owners are in the need of creating payment plans with their landlords. We can help you negotiate with your landlord if you have some debt related to COVID. We can also help entrepreneurs that are just starting the business and they want to know what is the best entity to incorporate their business. Is it time to actually file for an LLC or you should wait? We can answer all those questions through our lawyers. We can also help you with intellectual property. A lot of business have intellectual property that they want to protect, so we can file, for example, for a registration of a trademark. We can also help you with employment law questions. For Bet Tzedek, it's very important that small business owners are following employment laws and being fair to their employees. So we can help you to answer questions related to employment law. And then just in general, we are seeing also that a lot of business are going online. And if you are providing services online or you have a website, it is important that you have some privacy policies in place and just different documents that you should have available on your website, so we can help you to create those too. These are just some of the examples of the types of services that you can get through our program. It is important always to mention, I think, success stories, what we have been able to do for our small business owners. So of course, during COVID, there were a lot of changes in the regulations and those affected a lot of restaurants. So we have been able to help different restaurants to stay open and to stay up to date with the different regulations related to COVID. We have also seen a lot of small business owners, mainly from immigrant communities, that want to open a new business. We recently helped a small business that was a production company. The owners were immigrants from Mexico, and they wanted to open this production company to create documentaries and different programs related to immigrants in the US. So we were able to help them to incorporate their entity and just to starting up and running to be able to operate their production company. We are seeing also, as I said, a lot of commercial tenants that are having difficulties to deal with their landlords. So we have been able to help, for example, a group of vendors that were locked out of their location. We were able to negotiate with those landlords, create a payment plan for them, and they were able to stay in the location that they were at. So these are just some of the success stories. And I think something important to mention now is our eligibility criteria. So as I mentioned, all our services are free. However, we do have to look at the income of the small business owner and the sales and profits of the business. So the best way to see if you are eligible to receive these free services is just to apply to receive the services, and we will review the application and get back to you. I will put the application on the chat so everyone can see it, and we can answer any other questions related to the specific criteria and the business income that we look at when we are reviewing clients' applications. Also, it's important to mention that we focus on helping for-profit business in LA County. So if you are a nonprofit, you can reach out to us. We have some partner organizations that do work with nonprofits, and we will be able to refer you to them. However, through the program, we only work with for-profit businesses. And then, as I mentioned before, the transactional services that we provide are strictly transactional. We don't help in litigation. We provide services in many languages. We have a staff that speaks Spanish. And then if you are in need of having a conversation in another language, we do have a language line that can help translate information in another language. So to be able to access to our services, you can get into this link. That's my email. I will put it on the chat, and that's the application to receive services. And then we read some of the questions that you sent. One of the questions in a specific was related to funding. And I know that is gonna touch base on more funding opportunities. Right now, there are no specific programs from the county or LA City to support the small business owners. And we have been referring clients to this association. So it's a Jewish Free Loan Association. They can provide up to $36,000 to 2 qualified guarantors, and up to $75,000. So I would suggest that you look at the website and the different opportunities that they have. It's a really good organization. We have been working with them in the past, and it is a good opportunity to receive loans without interest. But I will let Ted answer more questions related to funding. And then the next part are a couple of other opportunities available for Hispanic small businesses. As we start Hispanic Heritage Month, some foundations and some organizations are providing some funding to a specific Hispanic and Latino small businesses. So I will also recommend that you look at these funds. Some of them provide also small loans without any interest. So I will just recommend that you go ahead on that and just check these websites. To close, I wanted to answer a specific question that I saw on the questions that you sent in advance. So I think one of the questions was, sorry, let me read it. Are there any legal resources for dealing with landlords? As I mentioned in my presentation, yes, we can help you to negotiate with your landlord. It is very important for commercial tenants that if you are negotiating with your landlord, any agreements, you put them in writing. We are seeing a lot of clients that are making some negotiations, they pay their landlords, and then sometimes the landlords still evict them. So it's very important that as a tenant, you have everything in writing to be able to protect yourself. So if you have questions around that, you can feel free to reach out to us, and that's something that we can help you with at Bet Tzedek. And that's everything for me, but I want to see if there are any specific questions related to legal. Okay. Well, yeah, Senator, go ahead.
Well, do you want to, okay. I mean, if you see a couple of questions, why don't you go ahead and answer them, and then let's, maybe we'll go to Ted, and then, then people can continue to post, and then we can after the presentations are done, we can go back and get the questions answered.
Yeah, I think
Is
so
it-
because I don't see any right now. So I will go
Okay.
ahead and let Ted start his presentation, and we can answer any questions at the end.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to Ted. And as you have questions, obviously we'll all be monitoring them as you post them in the chat. So next we have Ted Hyatt from the LA Small Business Development Center.
Thank you, Senator Allen. Pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody out there. I see we got a nice turnout, so thanks. I'm happy to be here. And Nadia, thanks. It's a pleasure. We've done a lot of work with Bet Tzedek over the years, and I definitely have some JFLA stuff in my presentation as well. But I did want to touch, I'm getting a lot of questions already about grants. And so let's just, there are grants coming. But I think the one thing I want to, if I can impart one thing to folks is that it's easy to wait for the grants, but do your best to not just wait for the grants, because there's no guarantee that you'll even be able to get all the grants due to the high demand. So I do know that there will be some grants coming through the county. Most of these grants are federal funds that are from the American Rescue Plan. And so those funds will be doled out depending on zip code, business type and those kind of things. I don't have a lot of detail around those as of yet because they're not available and we don't have all the regulations yet. But those will be coming hopefully in the next couple of months. I will provide some information later whereby you can get on a list and hopefully get updates to get that information. So I'll do that. But all to say, like in the meantime, because we've seen this before, right? We've waited for grants. Folks didn't get them. They called us and we did our best to help them. Some folks did get the grants and that was great. But we also have folks that didn't. So one thing we at the SBDC try to do is, first of all, just kind of sit down with folks as much as we can. We do a lot of training and we do a lot of one-on-one advising. And a lot of the work we do is around capital. So that could be a traditional loan. That could be a grant. That could be getting folks to the Jewish Free Loan Association so they can learn more about those programs. So what we do, SBDC, is training and one-on-one advising. And we get our funds through the U.S. Small Business Administration as well as the State of California Governor's Office. So thanks, Senator Allen, and for the work you all do to get, to help us do the work that we do. And because we're prepaid. So everything we do is no cost. I don't say free because when I say free, people think it's no good. And free is hard to sell. We are good at what we do. And we're passionate about what we do. So most of the folks that work with us are actual small business owners themselves. And they do this because they care and they want to help. They want to give back and they do it part-time. But we have a team. We have over 200 advisors throughout LA, Ventura, and Santa Barbara counties that are out there to help. And it could be anything. It could be you might need help with some marketing. You might need a loan. What does that mean? How do I get a loan if I don't know where to start? The first thing I would tell you is if you have a business banking relationship, go to your lender, go directly to your lender and see if there's an option for you. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, but that would be the first step. And then the second step I would say is, you can reach out to us and we can sit down and kind of walk you through certain steps. But the first thing I would say is a lot of people think they need a loan, but maybe you don't need a loan. I mean, are you profitable? Do you know? And obviously I'm speaking to a big group here. So, I apologize if it doesn't pertain to everybody, but a lot of times folks come to us and they don't necessarily know if they're profitable. Maybe they don't have accounting practices in place. Maybe they don't, they haven't paid their taxes in a couple of years. And so we can't really help them at that point to get capital. So one thing we'd like to do is walk you through certain steps if you're not currently bankable to get you to that point. And the one thing I will tell you is we also have a lot of people that come to us and they take out really bad loans. Some of these payday loans and these predatory loans that you see advertised. They seem great at the time. They might solve your problem that moment, that week, and then pretty much it's going to create problems after that. And it's very difficult to get out from under that kind of debt. So just I would caution you, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, especially when they want to get money to you tomorrow. Probably not a great idea. I don't judge folks that have to do that. Sometimes we all have to do those kind of things, but just be careful with that. It shouldn't be anything that, is 40% I've seen interest rate. That's nuts. Or a payday loan or a daily loan. beware of those. If you want to meet with somebody from SBDC, what you can do is you can go to our website, smallbizla.org, new client, excuse me, and you actually sign up to meet with somebody. You have to do this. It's mandated by our federal grantor. You have to answer some questions, and it should take about 3 to 5 minutes. But once you do that, you're in place, and we can get you to somebody that can sit down with you via Zoom. Everything we do right now is via Zoom, which has been a kind of a game changer for us, especially in LA, because before you had to come in and sit down with us, and people didn't, you had to park and you had to brave the traffic. So now it's a lot easier to get time with us. Let me just pause to see if I see anything in the chat. Excuse me. So one question I've seen a lot: are there loans specific for women or minority small business owners? The good news is there are grants coming. I sense, if it's similar to how the other grants have been rolled out, that certain groups will probably get, they'll probably get a better chance to get them than other groups, particularly minority groups. So that's, if that answers your question, but I don't have any specifics on where to apply as of yet, or what those grants will look like. I do know that there will be some very small grants, like $2,500 grants through the state, and those are for micro businesses like food vendors and things like that. And then there will be some bigger grants coming for small businesses, and I believe those will be up to $25,000. But I hesitate to give you too much information at this time because we don't have specifics as of yet. But I do know they're coming. The Dream Fund that you'll see here is actually going on right now, and this is thanks again to Senator Allen in the state. This is folks up to $10,000 for folks that want to start a business. You're not in business yet. You've always had an idea to start. What you can do is there's 8 sessions. These are 1-hour trainings. Once you complete those trainings, you would be put in a position to get a grant of up to $10,000. You can find out more info here at smallbizla.org/dreamfund. And they will send you information. There's no class going right now. And we don't have specifics on when a new class is going to start, but if you opt in there, they will send you information and to get you in a position to hopefully be able to sign up for those courses. Either way, the courses are great. It's a free course that's going to get you in position. It walks you through a business plan. It explains marketing. It explains certain industries specific to starting a business. So I think it's valuable either way. The other thing, as Nadia mentioned, was jfla.org. I can't say I feel like I've known about 15 businesses actually start because of JFLA. They were able to get funds in order to start their business. Interest-free loan, it's amazing. A lot of people don't believe it when we explain it to them, but JFLA does amazing work. So that's another source I would tell you, specific to getting funds. With that, let me see. Okay, and then as far as like just traditional lending, because I want to get back to that. Do you need a loan? That's always a question that we ask people. Well, how much do you need? And usually they'll say as much as the bank will give me. Well, that's probably, I get it, but the bank is not going to give you a loan. You need to be able to explain what you need the money for. You need to also be able to demonstrate that you could pay that loan back. Should they give you a loan, how are you going to be able to pay it back? They need to see P&Ls. They need to see tax. All that stuff is super important. If you don't have your financials together, you're not going to get a loan from a traditional lender. Again, though, that's something that we can help you with. We can walk you through it. It might take 2 years to get you in position, but you've got to have revenue as well. Some of these grants also will require you to demonstrate. I guarantee it. If they're disaster loans, they're going to want to know if you had a loss due to COVID. They want you to be able to demonstrate that. You can't just say, yeah, but my business was affected by COVID. They're going to need to see numbers to back that up. So that was a lot of the work we did with some of the California Small Business Relief Grants. A lot of that work was around helping folks get that information together to get them in position to hopefully, get those grants. So we've been busy in the grant world at SBDC, but we just want folks to also know there's other things we do. And we're here to help that's the only reason we're here. So with that, let me look in the chat really quick.
Yeah, there was a question here about, well, I mean, I've got a question about SBA, whether it works with nonprofits.
It does. So we do some work kind of similar to what Nadia suggested. We work with we work with nonprofits as well. There also will be a grant specific to nonprofits that meet certain criteria as part of the consolidated grant programs that we'll be rolling out in the next few months.
Okay. And then I noticed, I mean, well, I've had a couple of questions I'm gonna ask from the folks that had written in it earlier, but Cedric's question, obviously there's a lot of focus on grants for struggling communities, but there's a lot of people, particularly, I mean, some of the more prosperous parts of town have such incredibly high rents. It's so hard to make a brick and mortar work. I guess your answer for someone like Cedric is, what would you say to someone like Cedric here, Cedric Jones, who's asking about not being able to get a grant due to the zip code, and even though COVID, of course, has impacted him just like everybody else.
Yeah, Cedric, you bring up a great point. I unfortunately don't really have an answer. The grants are as they are, and so hopefully, I do know, however, that they're going to make sure that each zip code gets something. So they're trying to, I don't know if it'll be like a lottery type of system. I don't know what the system will look like, but I would still encourage you, Cedric, to apply for the grant. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily expect you to get, but I would say that to everybody. I mean, there are a lot of these grants will be competitive. So you'll need to put your hat in the ring and see if you get it, and hopefully.
But they ensure that. But you're saying that they're ensuring that at least all zip codes are getting something. I
can't say that for sure. My guess it would be yes, because that's kind of how the grants were rolled out last time.
Okay.
But I do
we'll
know
spend
that
some time looking into that too, because
yeah.
I mean that's certainly it's an area. I mean that's a lot of the areas in my district are have a kind of above average income, but the flip side is that the costs are so much higher. So it's all the more challenging for folks to pay the bill. So I'll spend a little time on that on my side too with my team, so we can get that question answered. Well, let me first of all, thank you both for your presentations. Let me now just take an opportunity to ask a couple of questions that were that were sent in to us early. And then we can go back to the chat and people can continue to post, and maybe, Nadia and Ted, you guys can just continue to read the chat and see if questions have come up that you might be able to answer. But let me start with, do either of you guys know if there's another, what information you might be able to get us with regards to talk about employee credits that might be in the works? Kind of employee retention incentives.
So Senator Allen, let me see if I can get an answer for you on that. I don't know if those are part of what you described earlier with the California Competes, if there's anything in that package.
There is, yeah. I mean, the California Competes is one area, but I wonder if this particular question may be asking for a more comprehensive program, but certainly California.
So whoever asked that, let me put my email in the chat. And so you guys can get that, and I can get you an answer at some point.
Great. Okay. So yeah, and so the next question I think we've kind of answered. It talked about the extent to which folks are, the state's doing anything to help small businesses with actual dollars in the pockets. They got a lot of money in actual dollars from federal programs in 2021. Obviously, grants do continue. They're not quite at the same level, but there's still certainly some money out there, and the resources that were mentioned by the panelists, I think, will help that questioner out. Let's see here. What else do we have on the chat? Okay, so Nadia has been posting answers. I appreciate that. What about Wendy's question? Had an S Corp since 2002. Needs to expand. How do I choose between a line of credit or a loan? Any advice along those lines?
That would depend on a lot of factors, Wendy. So again, you got my email. go ahead and feel free to shoot me an email on that one. We'll get you an answer.
But do you want to, I mean, are there some, well, let me ask you guys this. Yesterday, we had we did a whole seminar on scams. It wasn't focused on small businesses. It was more online solicitation, door to door. But are there, I mean, you mentioned, Ted, the very serious ramifications for, businesses that might take on a loan at a too high a rate or a very disadvantageous loan. Are there some things are there some horror stories relating to lines of credit, for example, that either of you can share that might, or some good stories that people ought to be aware of when it comes to when they're looking at this decision as to whether to take a line of credit or a loan?
Nadia, I saw you shaking your head. I don't want to take up all the time.
No, I think you are the expert on that topic, but I will say that it's very common to have, as you said, like interest rates of 40% that a lot of the times are not even legal. And people just start paying them until they cannot pay them anymore. And we see clients that like have been coming to us because they are just too late and they need to file for bankruptcy because there is not a lot we can help them at that point. So I would say it's very important that you go to an organization like that, for example, when you are deciding and seeing if whether like you should take each of like whatever of those, but that I don't know if you have any other input.
No, I agree. Yeah, Nadia, absolutely. Yeah, it's not a one size fits all, I'll say. So it's definitely a one size fits all for predatory lending. Don't do it.
Oh, sorry.
But as far as line of credit versus a traditional loan or other types of capital, it just depends. I mean, I would hate to say one is better than the other. Depends on your business size and where you are, and cash flow, those kind of things. But the thing with lines of credit and other things, usually folks that, it seems easy to say, oh yeah, you can just get a loan. It's really not easy to get a loan. There's a lot of work that goes into it. You have to have a history. The folks that can usually just walk up and get a loan are usually folks that probably don't need one a lot of the time. So that's where it can get tricky. And so what we try to do is explain to people, though, especially newer businesses, like we want to get them to the point where they can just go get that loan and they're not putting their own money into their business. But most people don't wait. Most people bootstrap it, and that's how they get it done. And that's probably the best way to do it when you're starting. There's probably no other way. You're going to go to friends and family or those kind of things to get started. But so that's what I'd say.
Okay, a couple of the questions I saw from earlier in the chat I've been going through. So I've been asked to complete an application that shows I'm a current bona fide provider. Colleagues have suggested I list the volunteer services provided to the entity, any issues that need to be carefully worded to avoid rejection.
I guess I'm not sure what the provider is. If this is for a government contract, if they could maybe give us some more background on that.
Okay, maybe the person who posted that could give us some more specificity there. The other question I pulled up: have you been able to assist arts and culture organizations with acquiring loans or grants?
We were able to assist arts and cultural in the small business relief grants. There was actually a whole round specific to those type of businesses. But at SBDC, we help everybody. So if you're an arts and cultural business, that's great. We don't judge, and we do the best we can. We cannot help cannabis industry, though. I will say that we're not able to help anybody in the cannabis industry due to our federal grant.
Gotcha. Okay. So basically, people. So Ted, any small business or entrepreneur can basically sign up for a little a session with you guys, and you'll kind of help them. I mean, how much time do you give them typically?
Typically, the first session center is like an hour.
Wow. Okay, great.
Just so we get an idea of, and we triage it from there, just to see what their needs are. And sometimes, and the thing I'll also mention is that we continue to work with the business as long as they're showing that they're trying and they're moving and we're moving, but it doesn't end. Like that's where.
And do you have, I mean, in order to get that service, is there some sort of, what are the criteria you're looking for?
Really, the only criteria, they have to complete the 641 form, and they have to demonstrate that they're serious about doing this. We'll give you certain steps that we need you to take to continue the engagement.
That's great. So for that first meeting, what do you have to be, what do you advise people to be really prepared with, so as to get the most out of that first meeting?
Great question. So have one idea, I would say at first. If you're a new business and you've never been in business, tell us what you want to do. Don't have like 7 things. If you're in business now, sometimes to prepare, if you have some financials, and by the way, it's easy for me to say, like, you don't know me and we ask for people's financials and there's a lot of information. I think I left out one of the main things is that everything we do is confidential as well. So we really try to make sure that, confidentiality is key, and to fraud, we're super hesitant and careful with that stuff. So, but yeah, if you really want to prepare, if you're new, give us a good elevator pitch if you have one. What's the business? What are you trying to do? What are you selling? What service? If you're established, what are your pain points? And then maybe, if you have some financials you feel comfortable sharing, that'd be great.
Okay. By the way, the earlier question I asked, where we were trying to get some more specificity as to what exactly you mean by a bona fide provider, that was a question that Yvonne La Rosa posted. So if you're still on, Yvonne, please, maybe you can give us a little bit more specificity in the chat so we can get your question answered. Dami, who's a friend of mine, nice to see you, was asking, obviously we just passed the federal government just passed this massive new bill that involves spending in a lot of areas, certainly a lot in green economy, green tech, climate change related businesses, innovation. Can you speak, are either of you aware of opportunities for folks in those spaces that might be coming out of the federal legislation that people ought to be aware of?
Nadia, I'm seeing that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go to you.
No, I mean, again, we're here for any type of business, so, but I don't know any specifics relative to that.
Okay. So is it the kind of thing when legislation like this, obviously it's new, do you have folks in your office who are kind of poring over the options that are well, at least looking at what the legislation says, what it's doing, and so that you can be, I mean, let me ask you this, I guess, Ted, if let's say Dami were to meet with you and he's doing green tech work, and there are specific questions about opportunities about becoming out of this Inflation Reduction Act, or what then happens? Do you guys have folks who you can draw upon from SBA that you can bring in to provide specific information about those opportunities that you might know off the top of your head?
Absolutely, as much as we can. We try to make everything as customizable as possible. So if something like this comes out, we may have somebody that knows, hey, this is, I know how to fundraise for green economy kind of sectors. We do have those kind of folks in house as well. Maybe. So yes.
And I'll just throw out to the participants too, like we do get, sometimes if you do have a kind of a wonky question about, so certainly state policy, I mean, and to the extent that a lot of the federal legislation ends up passing through the state, if we can do some additional follow-up, we're always happy to. And Dami, I mean, if this is something you're looking into, happy to kind of do some legwork on our side, to ask some of the folks in Sacramento to see what information we can get about money that might be made available to California businesses coming out of that federal legislation. We'll post our information in the chat as well, but I will repeat, our office number is 310-318-6994. And the email is senator.allen@senate.ca.gov. And we handle literally thousands of questions from constituents. And, we can sometimes put you in the right direction if you're looking to track down information about a piece of legislation or grant opportunities that might be coming through an agency, specifically at the state level. And then we can obviously, we got great relationships with congressional offices and others who can help you out with federal questions as well. Okay, let's take a look. So, so Yvonne did follow it up. So she says, I've applied to be designated as an official city public advocate for those who are unheard, afraid to speak, or cannot speak because of repercussions. The application relates to the social services task force. I've been in the field for more than 20 years. I'm not clear what a bona fide means. Okay. Yeah, this may be something that we should probably have her meet directly. Maybe she could call our office and we could try to help her But you can see in the chat, if you guys happen to know the answer to her question, feel free to answer, but this may be something that we're going to want to talk directly to her about.
Just from a legal point of view, so bona fide in Latin means in good faith. So I don't know if they are asking you basically to sign a document, and they are asking you like that you are doing this in good faith, and because you say that you have the experience and you can demonstrate that you actually have it, all the information that you included is in good faith, so you can sign it without any issues. That's what usually in legal documents that will mean, and it basically at the end says that in good faith you are saying that everything that you said before is true. But if I'm like, because I'm not seeing the document, I don't know, but that's what usually means, like from the legal perspective.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, man. And I'm looking at Jago's question. I mean, some of these market challenges. I mean, how do we find enough engineers? I mean, that's a literally $1 million question, because we all know how much our economy is increasingly relying on technology. Look at us all having this meeting right now over Zoom, and all of our top engineers are going into such high, they're able to command such high salaries right out of college.
Yeah, Jago, it's Jago. Jago, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Yeah, your question is relative to probably a lot of the folks that are business owners, irrespective of industry right now. A lot of folks are having difficulty with employee retention, finding new employees, keeping employees, all that stuff. So yeah, we get a lot of questions around that. Don't have a great answer for you, unfortunately. Yeah,
I mean, I know we've got a lot in our area, but I mean, I was just at the State of the City address in El Segundo yesterday, and it turns out there are higher concentration of kind of tech PhDs in El Segundo than anywhere in the West of the United States, and so it speaks to the talent that exists in Los Angeles. But of course, that talent gets snapped up pretty quickly. And it's expensive talent too. So we know that's one of the many concerns that we have. There's also a lot of young people though in engineering, and a lot of, I mean, Jago's saying that he's an engineering student himself. And we know there are a lot of great opportunities for younger people coming out of our community colleges, UCLA, LMU, I mean, all the local schools that might be, that folks might be able to tap into. So Nadia's posting some resources for Hispanic small business owners specifically to answer Oscar's question. We've got some great questions that just keep popping up. I mean, a lot of these are very specific, and the kinds of things that would probably be best handled through a session with one or either of you, or if people want to track down specific policy questions, they can call our office. But other things that have been popping up on the chat for either of you, Ted or Nadia, that you think you can answer or speak to?
So I don't know, Rachel, if the question about a one-person business, we do help sole proprietors, and then if you want to change your structure, we can also help you with that. Something that I maybe pop up for me is that some of you have been mentioning the different structures that you are at, like either LLCs, S Corps. When you're applying to some of these loans or grants, they ask you to actually have an entity. So if some of you are here and don't have an entity established yet, we can help you through that process.
Great. I have a question, Senator, from Eugenie. Do you help businesses that provide a community service such as education? Absolutely. Yeah, my email, reach out. Again, we help any type of business and all sizes other than cannabis. We're
okay. Oh, you can't do cannabis because of federal funding?
Correct.
Oh, that's funny.
Federal Trump state, unfortunately, in this case.
All right.
So.
There you go. But there was another question from Savog, who asked about whether you help businesses that provide community service such as education, and obviously that would absolutely be included. Another question from him about business incubators. Are they helpful? I mean, of course they're helpful. I mean, everyone wants to get into one, right? It's
sure. I would say if you're interested in one of those, I'm trying to find your question. Yeah, they can certainly be helpful. I think one thing to definitely look out for too, is there any kind of funding available if you're participating in one of those incubators, accelerators, that kind of thing. It's great if they provide office space and maybe networking opportunities. Also, if you're shopping, see if there's funding available if you take part in one of those. And do they put you in front of potential funders too? Like that's important.
No, for these grants that we were talking about earlier, do you have any insight as to typical turnaround from application to release of funds?
Unfortunately, I don't. I can only go back, in time on that one. Sometimes they would get funded pretty quickly with the California Small Business Relief Grant. Like they were able to turn those around pretty quickly when once folks got everything into the system. It was usually pretty quick. The Dream Fund, we've already had a fair amount of folks get funded, but again, they've already done the 8-week course. They've completed their business plan. They've provided certain bank account information, and then they apply. I've seen it take a month after that. So.
Okay. Just a specific, so Ted, you can't do cannabis business, but what about like cannabis adjacent?
Can't do it.
Oh, really?
Nice. I wish. Yeah.
Even
And
if,
sometimes it's funny because people will come in and be like, well, I have this business and we do, and you can kind of tell what they're saying. They're trying not to say it's cannabis, but yeah, I've had people want to do like cannabis, staffing, those kind of things.
No, but what about like a smoke shop? I mean, these are companies that were perfectly legal before cannabis was legal in California.
We've had, our regulations are pretty clear. Smoke shops are probably pushing it even. Like it can't just be like there's prurient nature businesses. So
okay.
Put it like this, we have to we're taxpayer funded. So if taxpayers
you're allowed,
get upset,
but you are allowed to do like a tobacco store or something.
We have a cigar line.
Yeah,
we do. Yes.
All right. Right. Sometimes hemp. What about hemp? Yeah. Hemp probably okay. Yeah.
Hemp is pushing it, but
the Declaration of Independence was drafted on hemp paper. But anyway, okay.
Don't judge.
Well, all right. Well, these are great questions popping up. Why don't we go ahead and make sure that both the LA, so both Ted's information and Bet Tzedek's information. So we get the LA Small Business Development Center contact information back up, including those websites for people to set up consultations, Nadia's information and Bet Tzedek, and then our offices as well. I think we're getting to a point where most of the questions are things that are specific enough that it's probably going to require some direct consultations with one of our 3 respective offices. So I just want to really thank everybody. We're going to post this webinar on our Senate website, on my state Senate website, so that this can be shared. You can go back, you can listen to specific questions, answers, and all the rest. I want to thank both of our speakers for taking the time with us to be with us today, for giving us all this great, useful information. I also just want to, I'm personally really happy to just hear more about all the work you're doing to provide free consultation to entrepreneurs, to existing businesses, to people who want to get businesses set up, to people who are struggling. We just know how many of our wonderful small business owners in our community that have really been struggling. And we know it's expensive to do business in LA too, for a lot of reasons. And whatever supports you can continue to give to them, obviously, is so appreciated. So if you also know people who might be able to benefit from the information that was in the seminar, we'll be, as I say, please send them to the website so that they can access this information. So once again, my staff is very much here to help, and I do really want to send a special thanks to Davis and Olina for their really hard work in helping to pull this together, but also all the work they do every single day, along with their colleagues, answering constituent calls that come into our office from all over our large district, million person district. So once again, our district phone number is 310-318-6994. And we stand ready to help folks with whatever issues you may be dealing with. Ted, Nadia, any final comments you want to make to as people sign off?
No, just thank you for the opportunity, and we are here to help you. So please just reach out to us and we will be happy to help. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. We're here to help. Don't be afraid to reach out. And it's no cost service. It's not free. You've already paid for it with your tax dollars. So use it.
Great. One final, I noticed Zainab made a comment about folks that are being impacted by metro construction. I know that LA Metro specifically has a major fund that's available for anybody who's being impacted by construction. So we can direct you toward them. I don't know, Ted, I see you nodding.
Yes. I'll put one of our centers was handling some of that work. So let me put my email in one more time, and please reach out to me directly.
Okay. Yeah, I know there are definitely that I know there are resources for, and I know businesses that we've helped get money, but we usually do it through our colleagues at Metro. But there are definitely resources. They always set aside a good chunk of money during rail construction, specifically to help those businesses that are directly impacted. Davis is going to post our website right now on the chat. For Jane, and then the last thing I saw, jury, Nadia obviously said that Bet Tzedek can help with legal. Obviously, Ted can help with some of the others. I mean, it sounds like you guys are helping people with everything from marketing plans and financial plans, all that sort of thing, as they try to get a business off the ground. So anyway, there's our website, sd26.senate.ca.gov. Thank you again. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Really appreciate everyone being a part of this webinar. Let's help you help our economy and help continue to put California and Los Angeles at the heart of our innovation economy here. So thank you, everybody, and hope you all have a really great evening.
Bye-bye.